Welcome to the Garage Grit Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Hurlock of AA Shop Marketing. Our hope is to unite shop owners to tackle common stress points and challenges that they're experiencing within the auto repair shop space. Our mission is to guide you towards the best solutions for your shop. So tune in, join the conversation, and let's move your business forward. Welcome to the Garage Grit Podcast, and I'm your host, Brad Hurlock of AA Shop Marketing. And on our panel today, we've got 4 great shop owners, as well as Greg from Steer CRM. But let me walk through and introduce each shop owner, and then we'll get to the conversation. And this month, the conversation is about bad reviews and how to handle them and how to respond to them. In my opinion, when you own a business of this size, even though it's not personal, it feels personal. And that kind of changes how we feel about these reviews as well. And so we're going to talk all about that. So real quick, I'm just going to go from side to side here. We've got Jonathan from Dave's Automotive in Westchester. We've got Stephan from Lunsbury in Fremont, Indiana. And we've got Pete from the Auto Connection in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we've got Lance from Dronet in Louisiana. And we've got Greg from Steer CRM. All right. I've looked at some of the reviews off of your Google profile specifically, but Jonathan, as your wife pointed out, that's not the only place that reviews are sitting, right? They're also on Facebook or social media, or even in just the comment section or public or local Facebook groups. But I want to start specifically talking about some of the Google reviews, because they do get the most eyes, and they do it is very relevant as far as when people are searching for auto repair near me, that it's coming up, right? They're seeing these things. And I've seen a couple of you, Pete. I noticed that on some of your reviews, you actually respond and explain what was done. I noticed a couple of them. You actually flat out said, here's what we did, here's why we did it, and so on. And I found that to be an interesting take. Is that a typical situation for you, or is it a case-by-case scenario for you?
No, that's a very typical situation for us here. We try to handle them each individually and personally. We've found that a lot of our clientele throughout the Midwest stick to in hand and taking it one thing at a time, basically. So basically, whether we have a good review or a negative review, we want to make sure that we handle it personally and try to get to the bottom of every situation that we can.
So you're responding to every single review as best
every
you can?
Review.
And is it you personally, or is it someone else that's doing it for you?
Generally, it is myself.
Okay. And when it's a bad review, do you get pushback?
Yes and no. We don't get so much pushback from incoming clientele. We've actually gotten praised on the fact from quite a few of our clients that we even respond to the negative reviews. But even when they are negative, it's a very personal situation to us and the company in general, because we want to make sure that the client is obviously understanding as to what, where, when, and why. But if there's we try to obviously handle that as a learning and growing experience, for lack of a better way.
Okay. All right. Is there any particular review that you want to bring up to the forefront that strikes you as something that's worth chatting about?
It's really hard. We have so many as it is in general.
Was it about a month ago you had a bad review? Did I see that right?
Yes.
And by the way, that's not a reflection. One of the reasons that I chose the 4 shop owners on this panel was because their review score were all high. And so, but when you're running, as Jonathan said, 600 cars, per month, you're going to have the occasional bad review. That's just a reality of it. So, Pete, you want to talk about the last one? Do you recall it?
Which one? We actually got 2 in the same day. By AAA.
Okay.
But that is obviously, we love that accreditation, and we love the mapping that we get with that to a point. But this one was oddball, off topic. We've actually tried reaching out to her on numerous occasions, and have gotten 0 response.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that we obviously want to try to rectify the situation in any direction. But there's been no response from that client.
Interesting. Okay. All right. What about the rest of you? Do you get cars that are being towed in from other sources like AAA?
Oh yeah, we do. We do as well.
More likely to get bad reviews from them because they didn't do their due diligence on you beforehand.
I don't believe it has. I think here's the thing. Reviews are going to go two ways. You got to look at that review it's all part of what we do. It's all part of the business. And we're in a fallible business. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of things that go wrong with cars. Check engine lights, tire pressure monitor lights. And when the car comes in, how much of that were you responsible for? So that customer's expectations can set up for, and that could be the fault of the salesman, the mechanic. Well, how much of that expectation did you meet? Did you miss on some of that? Were they expecting something, but you didn't expect them to have that done? Maybe they had 3 lights on, you fixed 2, but they wanted the TPMS light, but that wasn't conveyed up front. So there's a lot of moving parts in what we do. So what I try to do is strip down that review, because you never want to sit there and beat your chest and go, hey, look at all my great reviews. I'm great. I like to look at, okay, what did we do wrong? Was it valid? And then how, I think Pete said it best, get a hold of that customer, find out, was there something we can rectify? How do we displease you? And I've had customers write bad reviews and they just won't answer. I'm done. That's it. It's a wrap. I've had other customers where you've had a conversation with and they've removed the reviews because they felt like, hey, I wanted my voice heard. I called and asked for John and he was not available because I'm out buying cars. And maybe they felt they just wanted a minute of their time and that was the best platform. So I look at each one as, okay, 1, were we wrong? 2, even if we weren't wrong, why did they think we were wrong? And how can we make them think or make them feel like we could do something better to gain that customer? And you just got to approach it in that manner. Some people just look, I'm displeased. I'm never coming back. We wrote the review and that's where we stand. But I think Pete does a great job. What he said, try to save that customer, try to go back, find out if you can keep that relationship, especially if it was a good one. And then try to learn from that experience and find out if you were wrong, how we're not going to make that same mistake again.
See, I can actually ad-lib.
Do you respond to every single review? I'm sorry. Who was about to jump in there?
I was, Pete.
Go ahead, Pete.
So I actually opened that client's ticket that you brought up that negative review on.
Okay.
So when that vehicle actually came, it was here for a vehicle dying at idle, but they literally, the vehicle would stutter and die. Also with the key on, you can manipulate the wires and cause the fuel pump to prime, but most likely this issue would cause the vehicle to be a hard start or no start. There was nothing in regards to a transmission issue that she had on here.
You got lucky for a little bit of time.
Yeah, we actually put an ignition module in it because it had hot spots on the board.
Okay. So Pete responds to every single review on regardless of the framework. Lance, how about you? Do you respond to every single review or just certain one?
I try to. I like Jonathan said, every review is a learning curve for us. Good reviews, we love them. We tell them thank you. We appreciate their business. Bad reviews, there's typically 3 of them that you're going to get. One is the guy who you have no clue who he is. And unfortunately, that happens more often than you think. Just somebody driving around town. We've had several that people gave us reviews. We have no clue who they were. We have no record of them, anything like that. And fortunately, there's a method that you can discuss with Google. They'll remove it for you. So we've got
to prove that it's not your client.
Right.
You can, yeah.
We've got some good success in removing those. The other 2 are the one that you got coming because it just things went bad and you tried your best, and then the other one is just blindside you, like what happened. But in every case, you asked me if I respond, I do. But in every case, it boils down to a lack of communication. I've noticed that the ones that we know we had coming where something got screwed up and this and that, it was typically because I wasn't communicating or somebody in my shop wasn't communicating well enough. Somebody got upset about something like that. We've had several where that have happened. I've responded. They've accepted my response. We corrected things and they removed it. So yeah, I do try to respond to as many as I can, but the ones that we don't know who they are, no.
Yeah. And
I think Google has that process where you report the review and then it's conflict of interest. So if you click on the conflict of interest, Google is pretty good at removing that review. It's just sometimes you have that pesky person for some reason wants to come back and do it again. You just have to do it all over again. But Google, I've seen, has been pretty good with the conflict of interest complaint, which is good.
I don't know if you guys use. No,
No, I was going to share a story about a client whose the client's daughter had an affair with somebody, and that ex-wife posted a negative comment on his business page. Take your drama elsewhere. So that was a real easy one to show that had nothing to do with the business and get it and have Google remove it. It's a no-brainer. But some of them are a little bit more difficult to prove that there's a conflict. But Jonathan, what were you going to say?
So I find also, because the Google is, when you figure, you guys all sound like you have very large shops. We service 600 cars a month. That's 60, 7,200 cars a year. We've been doing so for 30 straight years. I have 100 Google reviews. So if you're talking about 65,000 repairs in such a small fragment, and you're held to this 5-star standard, with that 5-star standard is you trying to find enough of your happy customers. And I think we as businesses don't do a good enough job to get our happy customers to promote our business. Now, we have an SRM system, a tech system that runs on our website where as soon as the job's done, how's the service? We have hundreds of 5-star reviews, but nobody sees that through Google. But we can refer people that might have a question about, hey, I saw your review. Is this how you operate? Or it's a different way for us to get our regular customers to brag about how happy they were over the years. But I think the hardest thing about Google, Yelp, which I don't know if people use Yelp anymore, but the other reviews, and we deal with Carfax, Cars.com, Auto Trader, which have their own set of reviews, is so few people are writing a positive review, because we're not, like, if I had 6,000 positive reviews, it would make the bad reviews not seem so insurmountable. But if I probably at some point, not too long ago, I might have had 45 Google reviews. And then you forget to promote because you don't realize how damning or how harsh or how hard a 1-star review could hit your 5-star or 4.5-star progress. Right. So I think shop owners don't always, and we try, but it's so hard in the day of a business to tell, hey, go brag about me on Google. Write me a great review if you're happy.
Yeah, we don't.
And I don't know that we don't do it. We just don't.
I was going to say, a lot of people will say, can you give me a good review, this and that? We don't do that. I always ask for an honest review. I want your feedback. Did we do well enough to meet your expectations? Did you have an issue that you'd rather not discuss with me, that you'd rather discuss in public with everybody else? Yeah, whatever. But we always ask for an honest review. They're great learning opportunities. Most of them turn out pretty well.
The one thing I will say,
I recommend to people that they ask whether or not have we earned a 5-star review?
Yeah.
Because again, it's an honesty piece. We're not looking for fake. We're looking for did we earn it?
That's
right. Was that Pete? They were going to.
I'm sure you guys have
in yet. And Stephan, I wanted to get to you real quick, Stephan, because you shared a story with me the other day about how, and I made a comment at your open about how even when they're not personal, these things are personal because this is our business. Right? And as Jonathan just said, you're just battling to keep it as high as you can. But you had a story where it was actually somebody who was personal. And so why don't you share that real quick with us?
Yeah. So this customer's been a long time customer, and I used to have the mindset, say, everything that we can get our hands on to get in the door. That was part of our strategic quick growth. So he had these antique truck, all like, I remember what they're called, like the Chevy Top Kick type truck, but they're all from like the 70s and 80s, all oddball things. We always bent over backwards for this guy, put on his own parts, which don't put on custom supplied parts, but we bent the rules for this guy. Always been over backwards for him. And one day he just had enough with us for whatever reason. And he started blasting me on every stinking platform there was out there. Better Business Bureau, Yelp, Google, and name dropping me, like throwing my name out there. And there was a piece of brake hardware, like a $3 piece of brake hardware that fell off. And I refunded him all his money from the brake job, all his money from, I don't remember what the previous job was. I'd have to get in and look. But I refunded him on 2 of his most recent jobs just to try to appease him. And he still blasted me everywhere. So I wound up blocking him on our social media platforms. because he wouldn't keep his mouth shut. And then he wrote reviews throwing my name out there about how we blocked him from our social media platform. It was just never ending. And this guy had my personal cell phone, and we'd talked many times after hours. And when he started blowing us up, it was 7:30 at night when I'm with my family on the couch trying to have a good time. And it was very frustrating. And how do you not take it personal when they're literally name dropping your name as the business owner? And Stephan is there. He won't do anything for me. And he refunded me my money, but he won't fix the part that he didn't, that is his technician that doesn't even work there anymore, that he's blaming it all, won't fix the part that's broke. And it's no, because I fired you. You react this way, I'm not going to serve you anymore as a customer. I think we've all had those customers that we've had to say, all right, you're fired. And it was just a point. So it wasn't good enough that I refunded him $90. And it wasn't good enough that I apologized. It wasn't good enough that I talked to him while I had my 4 kids sitting on my lap on the couch. And it was probably the most frustrating 1-star review I've had. The other ones, we all take them personal. I've had them where they keep me up at night just because we pour our life and our souls into these businesses, and to get negative feedback, even though that's how we grow and we learn. It's still hard to receive. Not as much now as it was back then, because I've had to condition myself to that. But that one, on every form you guys were mentioning, he blew us up on. And it wouldn't take any of it back.
I have a quick question for you. Now, how long was this customer visiting your shop?
This is about 3 years.
3 years. Okay. Did you have those red flags going up right from day one?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So now you're probably divorcing customers a lot quicker. So it's a learning experience, right? Unfortunately, it's a learning experience. And I'm sure, obviously, you're on this podcast, you have great reviews. Me as a consumer, like, as long as there's way more better reviews that are glowing, as opposed to this one customer, customers can see through that stuff sometimes. So I know it's hard not to take it personal, but you have all these other great reviews out there. Focus on those customers that love you.
And that's what it eventually boiled down to. And plus, I've got a really strong team that works for me. They really enjoy working for me. So when they started seeing all this going on, they all stood up for me.
Good.
For the business. And yeah, we've got 534 reviews just on my big store. My smaller store has 300 something.
Yep.
And there's 16 1-stars. And almost every one of those 1-stars, I know exactly why. And I apologize for it. I called the customer up, said, hey, we've been growing really quick and we've got a lot of growing pains we're working through. But I rest assured that this issue has been addressed, and most of them understand, but do they take the review down? No. I've had probably 5 that have taken reviews down. The others just leave them. Right. And a lot of it's just, and I think it was Lance was saying that a lot of it, or maybe it was Pete, I can't remember. A lot of it's just miscommunication. Our team did not make the process efficiently with the customer. And then customer comes pick up the vehicle, doesn't let us know that they're upset until, bam, you get that 5-star review at 9:30 at night when you're late.
Use it as a learning experience.
The biggest issue is that when it's the most recent review, it's the one that's at the top of the heap. Right. That's a frustrating point. That can add to the whole angst of it. Do you guys have any kind of strategies or plans to try, like when you get that 1-star review? So we've all agreed that we're replying to, actually, let me back up. Are we all replying to all reviews, or just we're replying to the bad reviews and sometimes the good ones, or we're replying to all of them?
We do all of them.
We try to do all of them.
And Jonathan, you do all of them as well?
How many reviews do you think you answer?
Probably.
Very small percentage.
Okay. All right. And when we do get that bad review at the top, do you guys have a plan in place to hurry it and try to get some other good ones real quick? Or you just, time will heal it?
I just ride it. At that point, I just ride it out, because I think he made a good point. If you're going on and I mean, I buy things all the time. If I'm buying a TV set, you're going to read 5 reviews. It's the law of averages. If you take the 5-star and the 1-star and you average together, that's a 4. You just look at 5 reviews, and if 4 people say these guys did great, then I would look at that as, okay, this person wasn't satisfied, maybe this. But overall, he's got 300 reviews. I got 100 reviews. I mean, overall, if you look at that scope, and I would probably take the 5 most recent. And I'm going to draw my own conclusion from what I'm reading. I think people generally that look for reviews or read reviews want to read more than just a bad review, because they want to draw their own synopsis on, hey, that guy. And then if you can pull them in from there and then you can make them satisfied, that 1-star review in their mind, once they've been satisfied, was complete bullcrap. So if you can gain that customer and the other positive reviews bring them in, then it's up to you to make sure it's not going to be a 1-star review. I mean, it's our job in the end to make sure that customer that found you on Google comes in, leaves satisfied. So it's not a repeat process of how do we, we wouldn't all be here if it was a repeat process of I screwed up. It's doing enough good work that the times we fail don't make us look like we're not competent. And putting good work on the street, doing the right thing is always going to work itself out.
Well, and we touched a little bit on the ones that it's not a matter of you doing a bad job. It's a matter of being the person being somewhat seemingly unbalanced or just out to complain, or just that's just their personality. They're looking for that, right? It might even be it may have actually been a customer, but they're the impossible to please customer. And you actually did everything by the book, and you still have those.
That's what I was talking about, is exactly what you were saying. He was just impossible to please. And he's been a shop hopper. He's been to about every shop in town that would work on anything bigger than a 1-ton truck.
Oh, that's interesting.
He just trashes them. He goes through and trashes them. To answer your question, like when we get a low review, not even a 1-star, even if it's like a 2 or 3 star, we don't really push to get it buried. I like to take ownership of what happened and right in that response of, hey, this is the situation. Yeah, we failed on our end. We dropped the ball and we apologize. And whatever the situation was, I'll give a real brief description of what the situation was and what happened. And if customers truly look at reviews and look at responses, they can, I feel that most of them that have a decent brain and have some knowledge, they can sit there and decipher whether or not that 1-star review was a legit 1-star review, or was it just a complete misunderstanding? And hey, that business took ownership of it. And I'll leave my cell phone number and say, hey, if you really feel that concerned about this, call my cell phone number anytime and we'll talk about it.
See, and as a consumer, one of the things that I do is I actually look to the bad reviews because I want to see how the business responded to it, because I recognize that stuff happens sometimes and I want to see how it's owned up to. So that makes complete sense. We were helping a client the other day, and it was, I'm going to be careful on how I share the story. But basically, the person that posted, they said, I love these guys. They were great. I'm giving 4 stars because only moms give 5 stars.
I'll take
They were like, what? And so my team was still talking about how to reply to him, and someone chimed in, tell him that his mom gave us 5 stars and no, we're going to stop there. We're not going to do that one. But it was a scenario where, like, how do you do that? Because actually that brings down the rating. It was a positive review, but it brings down the rating. Do you have any fun stories just in those realms you guys want to share? Pete, you have one?
A fun one?
Yeah. One that was just like interesting story.
Negative?
Either, you know what? It can be, at this point, let's just, negative's interesting, but not necessarily. If you got a fun one that's positive, go for it.
I'll use a fun one that was also on a negative notion on ours. We actually had a client bring in, same time frame, he brought in a Sprinter vehicle. It was a Sprinter van, 300, 400,000 miles, had all kinds of stuff going on with it. It ended up, he had tried to repair it himself, broke bolts off, broke extractors off in the head, all kinds of everything. We quoted him a price because it needed a new head. Customer brought it in. We put it all together. And man, from day one, this guy had 9 months before that had given us a 5-star review because he brought us a alternator that was diagnosed at a shop 2 blocks from us, put it in for half the price of what they told him. And then he brought in his own refurbished cylinder head from another shop here locally. And oh my God, man, it has been years of dealing with this guy. And he is a super nice guy, but oh my God, there's a language barrier, to say the least. And it's always like I said, super nice guy, fun to deal with, but he never understands when you give him a price that this is what it is. If you ever have things that this comes up, he turns around and why is it more? And even if we give it to him and we came in less than what we quoted him, it's always a battle. Why is it less than what you told me? What didn't you do? Why is this? And it's always one thing after another.
So if anybody has ever traveled outside the country, I've been fortunate enough to do that on many occasions. And when I was in the oil field industry, I worked in some of the not so pleasant places in the world and got to see some different things. And they love to haggle everywhere but here. We tend to give a price and we stick to that price or whatever. That's not how it is abroad.
No.
And it's exactly like he just described. Well, you gave me this price. Can we do this price? Why is it not this price? And I have a couple customers along those lines, and it is a constant argument. No, this is the price. I don't understand. And there's a key word that you need to listen for. And the key word is, I just don't understand. If they say, I don't understand, then you offer an explanation. But the key word is just. I just don't understand. They don't want to understand.
Oh, I see. Yeah. That's interesting. What other stories we've got, guys? Jonathan, you got any stories?
I'm just enjoying listening to it seems no matter where we are, it's all the same thing. I think we all, you all have that customer you just can't take, but you tolerate him. You have that guy that always wants to bring his own parts, which I think that's amazing that you don't do that. We still, this day, will install people's parts. They'll bring you a lift kit and they order it on Amazon, and then it's on your lift and you're like, well, you got me the wrong parts and I have to charge you because now you're tying up my lift. And they're like, it's going to take 3 days to get the parts. It's like I said, it's a tough industry because the expectation is very high. Listening to you guys makes me feel good that I'm not the only one, because we all experience on a day-to-day basis, bargaining prices, giving discounts, not enough discount. Can I bring my own parts? The parts, it's the same wherever we are. It's really unique to, sit in and listen to everybody chime into what we probably all experience every day.
The repair shop has an uphill battle right when that customer walks through the door, because it is a grudge buy. I had a customer tell me that one time that repair work's a grudge buy. No one's excited to come in and have to spend $600 on brakes. So you have to be their superhero somehow. And it all comes down to customer experience. That's what I always tell a lot of my customers. I'm like, you can have the best software in the world, but if you don't communicate, what you guys are talking about a lot is about communication. That's where some of these negative reviews come through. But what is that customer experience when they come in? Do you have like a nice room? Is there someone really nice there greeting them? Are you doing like a nice digital inspection report? All this stuff plays into that customer experience, I think leads to a good review. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think these customers are going to be kind of difficult right off the bat, just because, again, they're not coming in really too excited to get their brakes replaced or get that oil change or whatever repair it is. So
let's say I got a weird story for you.
I love it.
October, I'll use that for an exact example. So my father got put into the hospital. He had to have a surgery. And while he was doing that, I actually put him into a rehabilitation center. So I was in and out for about 2.5 weeks. And then the day that they put him into the rehabilitation center, 11 hours later, he died. Because I was not responding, because my advisors, my front desk people, the client was calling in and I was not here, he actually wrote a bad review because he wasn't getting communication. His vehicle hadn't even been here. And he directly stated that he had called numerous times to speak to me directly, and they always gave him the runaround that I wasn't here. So I actually responded to him when I got back, the day I got back, and I said, I am sorry that you felt like you were getting the runaround, but I was not here due to the fact that my father passed away. I had 19 phone calls that day from people because they were actually reading the reviews, wanting to know why I even responded with my father passed away. And that guy showed up here with his wife with roses to apologize.
Wow.
And he said that he honestly felt, because in his previous going to other shops, because he's been coming to us for about 2 years now, that when people were giving him the runaround, that they wouldn't even allow him into the shop. And I said, I tell you, I said, from experience over my 25 years into this industry, I said, you writing a bad review is not going to allow you back into a shop. And that next day, he brought his wife's vehicle in. We did some work to it. And the day after that, we did about $3,000 worth of work to his vehicle. He was honestly just trying to come in to get an appointment, but he only wanted to speak to me. And I'm the one that they speak to the least.
Interesting.
I have 3 advisors, office coordinator, and everything else, and I'm the one that they speak to the least. But for some odd reason, he wanted to speak to me and me alone. So he wrote a horrible review. He obviously reneged on the review. He pulled it off of Google that day. And it was probably one of the oddest reviews I've ever gotten, because he felt like he wasn't getting communication, and he was getting full communication. He just did not want to speak to my advisor. My lead advisor is my wife, and she told him that I wasn't here, and he just was not happy with that answer.
Amazing. Who was I talking to the other day? And they were telling me about an Alzheimer's. They were telling me a story about how there was a review that was posted, and they had documentation that that they had done the job correctly and everything. And we thought he was happy, and he paid the bill. And then 2 days or 3 or a week later, he left a negative review saying that they had increased the price, and they don't even know what transpired or why he was all of a sudden unhappy, because he seemed happy when he left the shop. And the shop owner tried to reach out to him on multiple occasions and go out to him and visit him, and never got any kind of reply. It was just a ghosted situation. And then 6 months later, he read in the paper that this particular person died of Alzheimer's. And so it was, you're not changing that review at that point, right? But it was interesting that it's momentary, right? It's when they leave a review, a particularly bad review, they actually might be a regular person with just different things going on in their lives, right? With their timing and whatnot. So that's something. But Pete, you said something in there that you don't allow, if someone gives a bad review, you don't let them continue to be a customer.
No, that is not the case.
Okay.
We do let them come back as clients to us.
Okay.
Because obviously we want to do everything we can to rectify our relationship. There are multiple shops in our area. We're a big college town, for lack of a better way. The University of Nebraska is 9 blocks from our business, but we have 3 other major universities here as well. But I think in this community, I think there's close to 250, 300 shops in a 12-mile area. So there's a lot. And we have actually been told by multiple other business owners, because we have a business development group here specifically for auto shop owners and managers, that if they get a bad review from a client for any reason, they won't even allow them back in the door.
How about the rest of you guys? You get a bad review, do you let them back in the door, or are they officially fired at that point?
I'd say it's a case by case instance for me. If it's something we blatantly screwed up or something that we completely mishandled, then yeah, I'd like a chance to at least say, hey, this is how our normal operations are. That's not what you had the first time. But yeah, like if it was like the client I was talking about earlier, screw them. I won't drop the F-bomb, but
what happens is, if you allow that person to come back after a bad review, they're going to nitpick everything you do. They're going to find something else. And all they're doing is justifying your thought process of, this is why I did that. Now, just follow the 80-20 rule. 80% of your customers are great, 20%, and then boot them out. No, don't let them back.
Jonathan?
I don't know that I've ever had an opportunity. I think the 1 stars are either so mad, but I don't even think they do come back. We do reach out to them, and I think you're right. If you've made a mistake, you can usually, I call them, so I don't do it over reviews. If I've made a mistake, I can usually call that customer, and then you talk them back in and you mend that relationship. But if it's just a bad review, I generally would say that they're not coming back anyway. Because if you've made a phone call and they're not willing to have that conversation, then I don't think there's anything you can do. And you're probably better suited not to, if they were that displeased, unless you can rectify it over a phone conversation. Hey, we made a mistake. Can we have a second chance? We can make you happy. And then but if they're that mad, Lance is right. They're going to stay mad because they want to be mad.
That's right.
And that's where the benefit of responding to the review publicly actually have value, you're not saving that relationship. They're not, even if they do want to come back, you're not letting them in because, or whatever the case might be. But by you letting the rest of the world know who's also reading that review, you are reaching out for them. I think there's a lot of value in doing that. That's something. Okay. What is the most recent review that had nothing to do with the business whatsoever? And the person that seemed really off. And what we already talked about getting Google to actually remove it if it's not related, but was there actually a backstory with any of them? Stephan, you had an interesting backstory with the antique truck guy, but what other ones are out there that you could share with the world before we actually wrap this up? Pete, you're in a college town. There's got to be some college kids that are also posting on TikTok after they leave you a bad review.
We're in a huge college town, but they're on TikTok. They do, whether it's Instagram, anything else. We generally, in that case, have never gotten a bad review from that. There's only been one time oddball because we have a funkier display set up front. We actually had a 59 Metropolitan with some mannequins under the hood looking like they were working on a car. And we actually had another mannequin female inside the car. It looked like they were getting gas, and there was a mechanic under the hood changing the points on it because we actually had the distributor pulled out of it. And we actually had a client that left us I think it was a 2-star review because our display was,
there you go,
morbid.
Okay.
So that's the weirdest oddball review we've ever gotten. Generally, it's pretty much on point to the fact of what they have going on, unless they leave no review of any kind. And they just leave the stars.
Has anyone, once you get that bad review, we talked about just letting the time pass, it'll go away. You don't need to bury it. But have you ever tried to reach down a little bit harder to get a couple more extra good reviews to try to push it down at least a little bit? And does anyone do that at all?
No, we get enough reviews that it takes care of itself over a week or two.
It's happening. Okay. All right, good. Okay. Is there any other thoughts that you guys want to chat about in regards to, we talked a little bit about the bad reviews. We've touched a little bit on better reviews, but is there any other chats that we want to talk about when it comes to reviews in general before we wrap this up?
I do have one thing. I'd like Uber. Uber had a problem with bad reviews and what we're discussing and stuff. So Uber came up with a customer rating. Basically, they gave each and every customer their own review. And with that, it became that certain drivers would avoid certain Uber pickups where they would go to the higher reviewed customers.
That's brilliant.
I think as a shop and I think as an automotive association, we need to come together and have some sort of customer review system.
Absolutely.
I'm just putting that out there.
I agree.
In case it happens, I want to be the first one that thought about it.
I love it.
You know how many old men that are 70 and up wouldn't be allowed in our shops? Like, back in my day.
I just wanted to throw that out there just in case. Elon, if you listen.
When you're ready to start working on that, boss, let me know. I'll help you out.
I'm interested about that idea. Is it how it's community by community? It would have to be. There's no point in unless they're moving across the country, they're not going to go from one shop here to the next, right? They're only going to go to down the street. So you don't have to make a big thing of it. You can actually just talk to your most closest to 10 or Pete. You said there's 10, 12 shops?
Oh, no, hundreds.
So yeah, you would have a harder time coordinating in Lance, right? So there's probably, how many shops are near you, Lance?
There's probably about maybe 40 or 50 within about a 20 mile radius, 15 miles.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll make sure economy there.
Greg has a really good business opportunity to bring this team at Steer.
Absolutely. I was gonna ask too, with good reviews, is anyone on this call celebrating good reviews with your team at all? You are?
Every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I have a shop that I work closely with that has 3 locations on Long Island, and I'm on their Slack channel, and across all 3 locations, they are literally, as our Google reviews come in, they are alerting the channel and celebrating Kelsey for her great work and Robbie for his great work at the other store. And it gets the team going, and they all not start competing against each stores, but that you can tell.
That.
it gets the morale up and gets them going. And they're getting probably, most of these shops are probably getting about 20 to 30 Google reviews a month. But it's just awesome for me to actually be in that channel and just watching the celebration and the camaraderie be built across all 3 stores, celebrating the great Google reviews.
So I'm curious about that. Do they actually do have a competition? Like Kelsey gets a pizza if she has the most reviews at the end of the month, or
they don't. But Brad, I'm thinking I should probably make that as a suggestion.
Okay,
It's a good idea.
Are there other suggestions that you could do? Jonathan, you mentioned you only have 100 reviews, but you have 600 cars per month. What could we be doing different to help you get that number up? Now, just to be point blank, it's actually not a race to thousands of reviews. That's actually not terribly important when it comes to reviews and comes to rankings and whatnot. What matters from a Google perspective is that you are getting consistent reviews. Now, there is a benchmark that Google is looking for, and that benchmark does vary based on whether you've got 40 shops or 200 shops that are in your area, your population density and those types of things. But for the most part, once you all pass that benchmark, Google just cares that there's a slow drip. And maybe we spend the wrap of this podcast talking about how to actually hunt down those good reviews, not to the point where we're completely making it our primary job, but that we just have a steady stream, a drip type setup coming in on a regular basis. So we talked about offering contests or incentives to employees. Pete, are you doing anything in particular to try to make sure that your service advisors are asking for reviews?
My advisors actually do not ask for reviews.
Okay.
We don't do that at all. We actually do a follow-up message within 2 hours post the repair work being done or when the client picks it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it states that if they felt that they have received good service, to at that point leave us a review.
Okay. Now, Lance, you actually made a comment about how you asked for an honest review. Do you actually do that verbally, or is that after the fact?
No, it's the same way like Pete does. A couple hours after they pick their vehicle up, we'll send out a text message. And it's the same thing. We'd appreciate any feedback, and we'd appreciate an honest review, and we give a link to our Google page, and we do that via text message.
Now, Stephan, you've got 2 locations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you could potentially have these guys compete against each other for reviews, and they're going to tell you that the smaller shop it's not fair because the one shop is smaller than the other. And obviously your reply is it's not fair, get over it. But the real thought is, have you considered trying to motivate or them to follow up with their customer? Maybe even, or are you just doing a mass drip, an email campaign or a text message blast after the fact as well?
That we're doing the email and text after the fact. And it's been pretty consistent for us. It's worked pretty well over the last couple of years. But yeah, as far as my advisors up front asking for anything, they don't.
We have some shops right now. We have a pretty interesting campaign that works really well where it's at the end of the year. And basically in the campaign, the email and text is just, we like to celebrate our employees. If anyone made your 2023 excellent at the shop, please leave a review with their name and vehicle in it so we could celebrate them at the Christmas party or the holiday party. Usually when we do that for some of the shops that we work with, they start rolling in. And what's great is there's good content. And guess what? Google loves that content, to see description, vehicle, stuff like that. So win across the board doing some of those interesting campaigns.
And Jonathan, are you doing anything in particular to try to cultivate more reviews?
We really don't. And on our end, it's all family up front. So it's my son, sister, my daughter-in-law. So I don't know if I can get them to compete against each other for good Google reviews. So we would do the work and then cross your fingers and hope you get a good review. I don't know that we promote it enough. I really don't. I don't think that we spend our time doing enough and I don't know how necessary it is. I know that the whole conversation is about how good are good reviews and bad reviews, but at this moment, we are not doing anything to really promote people to write reviews. Other than we do what they do. We have a text system that we send a message out, and then, but that goes into our own system in our own website. It doesn't span out to Google so that they would write about a review. It just gives us a SRM that our customers can review. And I didn't know this. We also have this. My sister just handed that to me.
Okay.
And that's my used car dealership, but we do that for Dare as well, and we leave those up front.
And that's an easy way, by the way, if you have that card handy, to allow your service advisors just to ask for the review right there at the shop. Now, from a consumer perspective, I get that message every time I take my car in for oil change or maintenance or whatever the case is. And I don't know that there's a solution for this because you're sending it out to everybody, but I've already left them a review. I'm not going to leave them another Google review. I've already left them one. So so I find that to be pretty interesting. And I've already given him a 5-star. So the only thing, you can only go down from here. Don't remind me. So I don't know if that's a thing, but Greg, I think Steer actually has a setup where, if I understand it, where you first ask, and then if it's positive, then you ask for the Google. Is that how it goes?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and we could do it a bunch of different ways. Like we have customers that have something called a can text. So they'll just, if they know the customer had a good experience, they're like happy at the shop, you could just send them a text right from Steer and it'll go to that customer while they're standing there to leave the review. But typically what I've seen, what's worked really well is to do a check-in 2 days later after they've driven the vehicle around, to just check in, like a pulse check, like, how's your vehicle? Don't ask for anything just yet. And then you could from there turn off maybe that Google review request if the customer is not going to be willing to give a good review. But then what we do is automatically, no matter what, 4 or 5 days later, then we'll send out the 5-star review and ask for it. And that 2-step strategy has worked really well for our shops. But it's nice to just ask them, how is everything before pushing the Google review on them?
Okay. All right. I don't know. I feel like we've exhausted the topic of reviews. We've talked about the bad ones. We talked about the interesting ones. We talked about how to get more. Is there any questions or thoughts that you guys want to ask each other maybe of what's going on? I like what Jonathan said. It's nice to hear that even across the country, it's the same stuff, right? We're all in the same similar experiences. Any final closing thoughts from anybody? I think Pete's trying to say something. Either that or he's on the phone with somebody else.
No, I was talking. Somehow it keeps saying that my mic has been muted by the producer.
Okay.
But I just state that we obviously strive to hang on to the clients that we have and obviously in our area. And that's all we do is we just continually try to continue to build that relationship.
All right. Lance, how about you? Do you have any final closing thoughts?
Many, but none that I don't want to share.
All right. Maybe I'll call you later and you'll share those at another time when we're not being recorded.
It is so hard to, and I'm 49 years old. I probably look 69. It's just getting harder and harder for us to maintain the customer's attention. Everybody's they have a 3-second attention span. It's the instant gratification. It's just, I often wonder how our industry is going to evolve on things like that. I don't think that people want customer service as much as they just want. I don't know. The industry, everything is changing so fast.
You think their expectations are just high, or like when you say they don't want customer service, they just want, are you talking about like a concierge type thing? They just want everything, or what are you trying to?
Yeah. And I think they get that from social media. You see all these influencers doing things and having all these extravagant things. I think somebody had mentioned earlier about what we are as an industry, about they have high expectations. I don't think that's correct. I think they have unrealistic expectations of what you can and can't do within their means. Yeah. They want to spend $200 on a head, replace heads or something like that. I don't know. It's just, I'm getting to be that grumpy old man. I'm sorry.
In this industry, it's easy to be a grumpy old man. Yeah. Even 6 years ago when I was in the tech industry. So 6 years ago or 8 years ago now, I got back on the automotive side, and you could pick up a used engine for $300 or $400 and have it installed for a couple grand. Now, even a used engine, you're spending $4,000 or $5,000 our cost on an engine. Yep. Let alone trying to sell it to a customer for $8,000 or $9,000.
That's right.
And then telling them, hey, it's used. You really don't know what you're getting. It could be just as crappy as the engine we just pulled out. Dealing with the customer's expectations of coming in and an engine put in their car for $3,000, $2,000. It sucks when you have to come up and tell us it's going to be 10 grand. Anyway, that's becoming the everyday usual for us because they don't build engines the way they used to build them. And they're a lot more sensitive, and people also don't maintain them. So when you don't maintain a sensitive engine, what's going to happen? In setting that expectation of these customers is like what Lance was saying. It's like they expect the world given to them. And then when they have that hard slap in the face that, hey, the world's not given to them and we can't just give you an engine for $2,000. And it does get exhausting.
It is.
And yeah, where's it going to go from here? That's what really worries me. Not really worries. It just leaves you on edge.
I think it sounds like most of us here have a lot of common sense because we see the worst in people. We also see the best in people. So because of that, we raise our kids a specific way. I know I do. My boys know how to take care of their vehicles and stuff like that. But I see young kids come in who are married and maybe 25, 26, 27 years old. This lady came in the other day with a Kia. She had never had an oil change. She had 28,000 miles on it and it won't start. Never had an oil change. Did you not know to do that? I don't know. I don't know where we're headed.
Yeah. That's an interesting. And so that is an interesting point because we're used to being users of all of our stuff, but we don't actually ever take the time to find out what needs to happen. And that is common across not just in the repair space, but in general. You talk to somebody who owns a house for after 5 years and they start realizing that they needed to be doing stuff to the house the entire time. They can't just stay there. It's part of the picture. But and Jonathan, you made a comment because you got the used car part of things. You made a comment about, actually Stephan was talking about the cost of the engine and whatnot. With the prices of used cars, I was actually thinking that it makes more sense to replace the engine than it does to buy a new car. And
I mean, I'm sure he sees it a lot too. People generally now, because the economy's changed, interest rates are changed. When you were buying a car at 1.99, we were selling cars at maybe 2.99. Now, a guy comes in with a car and he might have a Ford F-150 to use this for work. To go buy a $75,000 work truck, that your $5,000 work truck does the exact same thing, that's a hard pill to swallow. And then to find out it's going to cost you $125,000 and 9% for that truck. So we're starting to see it switch back where people are deciding to fix their cars and spend the money on their cars because it's just money's not free right now. And then that's changing on the other side. I don't know if you guys sell cars, but on the car sale side, that changes a lot. Money is not as cheap as it was. So people are trying to be smart with, do I keep what I have and just kick it down the can a little bit? And then it's all asked to say, all right, you can do this and this, and we'll try to keep this car for another year. And you try to take care of that customer, but you also don't want to be unsafe. So it's a balance, a true balance.
so I probably shouldn't share this story, but I think I will anyway. And then maybe we'll wrap up. But talking about trying to make it last a little bit longer. And an old Jeep, this was at least 15 years ago, I ended up with a golf ball size hole and in the exhaust. And I found that the can of chili was really pretty strong metal for at least a little bit of time. So I'd buy a can of chili, I'd eat the can of chili, then I'd cut it long ways and I'd put it around that pipe and I would tape it up. And it allowed me to pass a couple of inspections, which was interesting. But maybe the inspection requirements are harder these days. But 15 years ago, I was able to get away with stretching that a little bit longer. Lance, that's not what you were talking about as far as maintaining vehicles, right? That's a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. You actually had some good knowledge there. That's pretty ingenious.
Common sense.
Yeah. I'm talking about people that have no reason to be driving whatsoever. Or kids that their parents taught them nothing about having a vehicle or anything of any kind of value for that matter. They just don't appreciate it. They don't take care of it. How many times we'll see a kid come in with a brand new vehicle, and I really hate to say this, but you open the door and the pot smell is just so strong. It's like, dude, I can't work on it. I can't test drive it. I can't do anything with this until you go clean it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And back to the cost and everything, that's going to start affecting the reviews as well. Have you had a lot of reviews lately about things being too expensive?
No, not about too expensive, but I had one dealing with that issue I just discussed where a young kid gave me a bad review because I told him I wouldn't work on it unless he go cleaned it out. But he got upset with me, left me a bad review, and I contacted him. And the first thing I said was, look, you don't take it down, I'm calling your dad. And I knew who his dad was, and I knew his dad would fix the problem quick. And he said, I'll take care of it. And he took the review down.
Pete, you're in a college town. Ever have to deal with something like this?
Daily. Yeah, we deal with it daily. And it doesn't matter if it's college kids or not. We got 50, 60, 70-year-old folks that walk in here, really nice cars, and you open the door and it's just, they just got done. And oh my God. And we just don't have those options. Otherwise, we'll obviously tell them that we're going to leave the windows down and let it air out for a while before anybody gets in. We just let it roll.
Okay. Stephan, any final thoughts for us?
Oh, I guess on the review end, anybody out there listening, just don't let it keep you up at night. They're just reviews. They're just people's opinions. And yet at the end of the day, multiple business owners are bigger and better than what those negative reviews are. And just be honest with your customers, be honest with yourself, and move on. Go to bed, move on the next day, and treat the other 10,000 customers you have that love you to death. Treat them right. So let that one make everybody else miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's great advice. That's very appropriate. Anyone else want to chime in? Or Greg, do you have any last thoughts?
Yeah. If you had a 5.0 score, like that's just unreasonable. No one is perfect. If I ever saw a 5.0 score, I probably wouldn't go to that business. If you're floating around the 4.5, 4.7, 4.8, that's great. Be super happy with that. Do not strive for that 5.0 because people probably won't come to your business. So.
Also good advice. Any other advice pieces that you guys want to drop before we head out and call it a wrap? All right. Guys, I really appreciate the time that we spent talking about this. I hope it was fun for the listeners. I hope it was fun for you guys as well. I'm hoping that you guys got some ideas, even if it's just Lance's idea to collaborate with the other local shops to try to make sure that we have individual reviews on the
$1 billion idea right there.
Yes. As long as it's documented, I'm good.
Perfect. All right. Again, thank you very much. And I really do. I appreciate your time, each and every one of you. I do.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thank you.